The retro handheld gaming market is one of the most exciting markets in video gaming right now, with new and amazing handheld consoles coming out almost every single month, pushing the technology as far as it can go. There are so many amazing names and big players in the mix now, with new ones popping up all the time, with the likes of Handheld, Pocket, Retroid, and even AYN Technologies. Now, I'm no stranger to retro handheld gaming consoles, and I have plenty myself. I absolutely love them, but I can't stop myself from looking at what other amazing handhelds are available, because there's just so much choice. The latest one that's been on my radar is the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. However, with the Retroid Pocket 3 likely to come out this year, is it worth buying a Retroid Pocket 2 Plus right now? Retroid have been one of the big names in retro gaming handhelds for the past few years, with their latest device, the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. The Retroid Pocket 2 was a fantastic retro emulation handheld console, but it had a few issues. One, it was slightly underpowered, and two, it sorely needed a touchscreen. In comes the Retroid Pocket 2 and solves both of those issues, giving a little bit more grunt and the much needed touchscreen that the Retroid Pocket 2 needed. Now, the Retroid Pocket 2 is a very tantalizing and appealing buy at around about £100. However, the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus is not that easy to get a hold of right now. Due to the issues that all world manufacturers have had over the past 2 years, Retroid have struggled to keep up with the demand of the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, meaning that you can order it on their site now, but you're not going to get it immediately. And when you also consider the fact that there has been a leak of the Retroid Pocket 3 already, this makes you wonder, is it worth buying a Retroid Pocket 2 Plus now, or should we wait for the Retroid Pocket 3, which is likely to come out by the end of the year? Now, to answer that, there are two things we need to consider. First of all is the price. Now, I've said in previous episodes and the review of the RG552 from Handheld that is one of my favourite retro gaming handheld consoles of all time. It is a truly superb device. However, it does have some little issues, which I'll get onto in a second. But the thing that needs to be noted about the RG552 is that it's a device that sits much more within the realms of the Nintendo Switch. The RG552 is going to set you back at least £200, similarly with the AYN Odin as well. And when you're considering a device at that price point, you are comparing it against and you are competing with the Nintendo Switch Lite at least, which makes you approach the consideration of purchasing that kind of console from a completely different angle. Now, I fully stand by the fact that consoles like the RG552 and the AYN Odin can go toe-to-toe with the Nintendo Switch in terms of the gaming experience they can provide. Although it has to be noted, they are two completely different types of gaming experiences and they cater to different audiences. But the RG552 and the AYN Odin are what I class as the next generation of retro gaming handheld consoles. Prior to the RG552, Handheld had released the RG351 series, which is a very different retro gaming handheld console. And now, traditionally, you might think the previous generation of console is automatically null and void now. It isn't quite the case. You see, the RG351 sits at the nice price point of around about £100, and it is also a smaller device, which makes it way more pocketable. The RG351 is the type of device you can just grab anywhere on the go, stick it in your pocket, and play it wherever you are, at the park, at a bus stop, anywhere. Whereas the RG552, like I've said, I see it much more like the Nintendo Switch Lite and even a little bit like the Steam Deck. These are handheld consoles, but they're not quite as portable as the smaller consoles. These are handheld in the sense that you will play these games sat on your couch or chilling in bed. This means that although the RG552 is a much more powerful and better gaming experience than the RG351, there are actually two different consoles that cater for two different situations. And for me, I'm somebody that loves to take my retro gaming handhelds absolutely anywhere with me. So the smaller and cheaper devices are as appealing as the bigger, more expensive, beefy ones. And this is where the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus comes in. Now, I've always said with Handheld consoles, there are a couple of issues that I would love them to sort out before they reach that pinnacle of being perfect for me. One of the most noticeable issues on the RG351 is that it doesn't have staggered shoulder buttons. This is a concept, this is a feature that I think is essential now, not just in controllers, but in handheld game consoles as well. The Nintendo Switch and other retro gaming handheld devices have shown it is entirely possible to have staggered shoulder buttons, because when they're serial, the way the Handheld series has them, they are just a bit too fiddly to try and use. Another thing that's missing on the RG351 is that it doesn't have a touchscreen. Now you can say it doesn't need one because it uses a Linux operating system, but then that's another issue. It also doesn't have Android OS, which kind of limits your ability to experience video games on that device to purely retro emulation handheld. The Retroid Pocket 2, however, has staggered shoulder buttons, it has a touchscreen, and it comes with an Android OS as well, meaning that it opens up the world of gaming for this small, pocketable handheld console to way beyond the games that you would only want to experience through retro emulation. It brings with it the whole gaming world experience that Android can provide you, and we're not just talking about mobile games, we're talking about game streaming as well. So at around about the £100 mark, the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus now looks like the best value for money retro gaming handheld console you can buy. But if the Retroid Pocket 3 is right around the corner, is it worth spending the money yet? Or is it worth waiting for the Retroid Pocket 3? Well, this is where the recent leaks of the Retroid Pocket 3 really start to get interesting. The device now looks to be aiming to target that different market that we were just talking about. The Retroid Pocket 3 looks like it's going to be bigger, much more like the RG552, Nintendo Switch Lite, and even comparable, let's say, to the Steam Deck. Okay, maybe not as big as the Steam Deck, but you know where I'm going with this one. The Retroid Pocket 3 looks like it's targeting itself more as that handheld gaming experience that you will experience at home, sat on your couch, chilling in bed. Not only for the size itself, but also if the Retroid Pocket 3 is going to be more around the £200, $200 mark, it means it's a much more valuable piece of equipment to be sticking in your pocket and knocking about in your backpack. You see, the beautiful thing about these smaller retro gaming emulation handhelds, like the RG351 and the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, you pick them up, you stick them in your pocket, you stick them in your backpack, you go where you want, the battery life is amazing, and you've got gaming instantly in the palm of your hand. So although the Retroid Pocket 3 is likely to be coming out towards the end of this year, I think we're going to be in a situation like we have with Ambernick. You've got the RG552, which is the beast, it is awesome, and it is big, and you've got the RG351, which is awesome, pocketable, and handy. Which one you want and which one you want to use really depends on your use case. So I guess in some respects, while talking this through with you guys, I've already answered my own question. For me, it's definitely worth getting a Retroid Pocket 2 Plus right now, because I know when the Retroid Pocket 3 comes out, it's going to be more expensive, and I'm going to be seeing it as a different kind of console. And the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus looks like it could literally tick those boxes and be the perfect portable handheld retro emulation console. But let me know what you thought, and if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so then you don't miss out on future content like awesome retro gaming handheld reviews. Once again, thank you for watching and see you next time.